With Hazbin Hotel just being a week away from release, discussion has perked up around a specific topic involving Vivziepop and the wages she pays her employees working on Hazbin Hotel. This has been brought up quite a few times over the years alongside the working conditions of Spindle Horse, but it's typically fizzled out by itself without much input from Vivzie and the team. This time, however, it's gotten fairly widespread. It all initially kicked off when a user posted a Discord screenshot captioned, "Green light to send this around has been given, and you'd better believe I'm gonna do just that." Proof straight from Adam himself of Spindle Horse paying Hazbin animators $35 per second. That is slave wages, this is abuse. Attached to this tweet is an image of a conversation between Adam Nalen and a potential employee applying to Spindle Horse back in 2020. Remember to take this with a grain of salt as it's not been officially confirmed to be legit, but it doesn't seem faked, which will make more sense later in the video. By the way, if you do enjoy these kinds of breakdowns, be sure to subscribe to keep up to date. Anyway, moving into today's video. The attached screenshot reads, "Thanks so much for signing. Spindle Horse is excited to be taking our first client job for the next few months. This allows Helliver some catch-up time. We will be handling the Hazbin Hotel finale episode for Bento and A24. We're happy to offer you a position as a cleanup artist." Now the biggest thing we have to clarify up front is that this show has a set budget. We are acting as the outsourced studio and the budget is locked, so we have to adapt our rates to allow for the budget to work for us. The new rate would be 35 USD a second for rough animation, with the opportunity to negotiate based on shot complexity depending on what the budget allows. The animation expected for the show is a bit more standard but less intensive, and the leads will be working extra hard to assist with the keys and will handle major revisions if needed to make things as easy to manage as possible. We will need to allocate a quota and we will need 100% transparency about whether or not you can hit the deadlines we give, as we are delivering to a studio and cannot offer extensions. The position will only be through to December 5th for a single episode, and then Helliver Boss will resume and rates will be $60 a second. We entirely understand if this is not a position you want to accept. We are happy to discuss further, but we would love to have you help us make the series end with a bang. If not, we are happy to discuss what the next few months will look like on Helliver. Thank you. Underneath, the user also replied saying, "Also, this confirms that the usual pay rate over at Helliver is $60 per second. For characters and animation this complex, that's very low. Mind you, this is all happening while Vivzie treats herself to front row Broadway seats and lavish vacations." Obviously, all these posts gained a lot of attraction, hitting over 33,000 likes and 4 million views. It received a lot of mixed reactions from readers, and with a lot of the quotes and replies bringing up the validity of the initial premise, and for good reason. When you first look at this post, it's fairly misleading unless you're paying closer attention to the actual job itself and not what the poster is saying. One community post summarizes this perfectly by saying, "This post is by someone who we can assume has never worked on an animated project before. The average annual rate for a cleanup artist is $31,000, so with $35 a second, you would make $2,100 per month for rough animation based on 12 FPS. Keyword here, rough. $3.90 per frame. This fits in pretty well with the industry standard and even paying more than some other well-known projects, one of which being Monkey Wrench, whose creator Zoral also jumped into the discussion saying, "Like, not to be that guy, but these are normal, even above normal rates for animation like this. Both rough and clean are handled at separate rates, so the costs usually comes out between $2,500 and $6,000 per 60 seconds. Not everything is animated on ones either." Another user stated, "I've been applying to animation gigs for a while and this rate is much on the higher end. Helliver is well funded and the staff enjoy higher rates as a result. Projects like Monkey Wrench that are still building support openly boast about paying 20 as opposed to 35. Various Spindle Horse employees also added some much needed perspective on this whole thing, really putting into place everything that's been said so far. Eddie said, "Hey, I'm gonna be honest, anytime there's a discussion about pay rates and people throw in slave rates and basically indentured servitude, you need to check yourselves before throwing around words like that. Comparing a low paying art job to slavery is actually crazy. I'm gonna be deleting this shortly after for my own sanity and to be more positive on my socials, but I stand by this. And this is not exclusively because of the current discourse of the day. I've seen people throwing this term around a lot about indie projects in general. People who think I'm not willing to take a critical lens to indie animation clearly don't know me and my past experience working in indie. If you want to say it's slave labor, go ahead. I'm not stopping you. I just think you're ridiculous." Emily also commented saying, "People acting like a frame of rough animation is equivalent to a full art commission, like, it's gonna be on screen for a fraction of a second. I'm not spending any more than 10 minutes max on it. And that max is just for key poses, Lamel. I know everyone works at a different pace, but like, I don't know, educate yourself before making wild assumptions to try and hurt others, not to mention, one person doesn't make the product from beginning to end in a studio operation. Everyone gets paid for their own individual part of a much bigger process." To kind of summarize all this, it seems like the initial poster was either intentionally misleading or just didn't understand what they were posting at all. This person pretty much lives and breathes to try and ruin the reputation of Vivzie and her shows by releasing misleading information at key times for the project. Many users brought up the suspicious nature of the tweet since the user seemingly sat on the screenshot for over a year, conveniently holding holding onto it until Hazbin was nearing its release. People also mentioned the user gloating on Tumblr about how many views their post was getting, again putting their actions into question and raising some red flags about their intentions towards releasing this. By their post, it seems like Adam Nealon is underpaying, which isn't the case at all. Animation gigs are split up into various processes, with this job just being one of them, cleaning up lines across frames being drawn by someone else. It's also been shown that the rate for this is actually fairly reasonable, and over on the Helva Boss project it's even more, and that's for a specific reason which I'll get into now. Hazbin and Helva are two separate projects with different budgets and studios. With the companies behind Hazbin being A24 and Bento Box, they're unable to offer the same rates as Helva because of restrictions out of their control. This part is also why I think this screenshot is most likely real, because this could be a very likely scenario behind the scenes due to them working with other studios on the show. However, it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why the person would leak this, since there's not really anything wrong with what Adam's saying here. As I mentioned earlier, this just seems to be an attempt to run the show through the mud a week before it releases. When seeing posts like this, it's important to get the full context before showing full support towards it, because the surrounding context might be a lot different to what you think. Anyway, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to subscribe and let me know what you think about the situation down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.